Alright, this video is going to be combination a fieldcraft task, an engineer task, and also a, what happened in Ukraine thing. Now, on Saturday, 08 August, at around 0607, that's 6:07 a.m. local time, a truck bomb went off on the bridge that links Russian-held territories with Crimea. Now, this truck bomb, the Russian intel services posted on RT last weekend that they were estimating held about 10 tons of explosives on 22 pallets in the back of this truck. Now, according to the security checkpoints at the front of the bridge, when the truck came in, this truck was loaded with ammonium nitrate fertilizer, which can easily be turned into HME, homemade explosives, in particular ANFO, ANFO, ammonium nitrate fuel oil explosives. The type of stuff that was used at the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City back in, I think it was 95. Now, reportedly, the Russian intel has reported the explosives was mixed and assembled in Odessa, Ukraine. It then did a shotgun out, went through Bulgaria. Some of it went to Armenia, some of it to Georgia. But it kind of sounds like the main part of the explosive that went through Bulgaria, so maybe the stuff out of Armenia and Georgia was additional unmixed ammonium nitrate. It did a circular route into Russia, so probably through Belarus. And it was picked up by an independent truck driver. Sounds like up near Novgorod, but I'm not sure on that. It could have been somewhere else, but it sounded like up around Novgorod. Now, the load was posted on the internet that there was a load of fertilizer that needed to go to Sevastopol in Crimea. This independent truck driver, he was looking for a load. He travels through that area. He picked up the load. And he agreed, hey, I'll transport it through Russian-held territory to Crimea. Once it was on the bridge, it was a few miles in, and it detonated. Now, it detonated when there was a train on the way from Crimea going to Russia. That train had fuel cars. More than likely, this was fuel being sent to the fighting up near Kherson. When that truck was online with those fuel cars, it magically detonated, destroying 2 spans of the bridge and killed 3 people. Now, right away when this happened, some of my subscribers or my patrons asked me questions on this. I looked at the damage and that stuff, and I told them this looked like it probably was a truck bomb. And from what we were hearing at that point, it was a truck with ammonium nitrate fertilizer. I told them that would make sense. This would be an ANFO device because of the scorch patterns we're seeing on the bridge that comes out of Crimea going to Russia. We were seeing a big circular burn mark on the side of the bridge here, and then over here far enough away that some of the tanks were ruptured, set fire to. The truck was in the outside lane when it went off. There was a car right next to it with 2 Russian civilians in there from St. Petersburg. These are YouTubers who had a channel that they were posting videos on Russian history and tourist destinations in Russia. Apparently they were going down to Sevastopol to talk about, more than likely, World War II history involving the Crimea, the Soviet resistance against the Nazi forces. Now, I was asked my opinion on this. You know, is this terrorism? Is it not? And my response on this is no. This was a legitimate military target. This is a major transportation route from the port to the front lines. This was a weak point. Unlike what the United States does, we send in cruise missiles to take it out. The Ukrainians used a truck bomb, and they used a big one. Now, I think what they did, they mixed up the ammonium nitrate. That was in the center of the truck. And then on the back of the truck, the front of the truck, maybe some of the packs on the side. I don't know how this was in there. Was it barrels? Was it tubs? Anfo, typically you're going to want it in a sealed container because it's very, very hydroscopic. It sucks the moisture right out of the air. So you're not going to mix it up. Put it in the paper bag it came in and put it on there. You know, it's going to be a bit on the liquidy side, just a bit, because it's, you know, shit mixed with a hydrocarbon fuel. So it probably was going in totes, maybe some type of canister. And then the ends of it was just a straight ammonium nitrate fertilizer, so that when the truck was checked at the checkpoints, because it went through multiple checkpoints, you know, they x-rayed it. They didn't see anything, they said. And an x-ray is not going to tell you if it's explosive in there. An x-ray is only going to tell you, is there metal in there? Is there, you know, artillery shells in there? That type of thing. And the x-ray techs, when they're scanning trucks like this, especially if it's in territory that's been held a while, they're going to be a little bit more lax. But the truck was more than likely set up that, you know, the security checkpoint could check the stuff in the back. They could go up and check in the front, and everything would be okay. The bomb is in the direct center of the truck. More than likely, I think what it was is this truck was initiated from a satellite phone. I think that's more likely than a radio. That's another possibility, but I think it's probably going to be a satellite phone because it's more reliable communications. I'm not going to tell you how it was wired up and that type of stuff. You know, I got an idea how I would do it. And there's ways you can wire it all up and it'll go through the x-ray. You're not going to see it. And that little phone or whatever it is that they're using to set it off with, you can kind of conceal it in there if you do it right. Where if they do scan the side, you know, or from above or below, they're probably not going to see it, maybe not question it. They'll think it's part of the truck. And I think what happened, unbeknownst to the driver of that truck who did die, this was not a suicide bomb. This was a guy who was just picking up a load and he didn't know what was in there. He didn't load the truck. It was loaded for him. And I think his truck was either tagged or being followed by a drone off over here, over the water. And when they knew that a train would be coming down with fuel, they probably timed it just right, figured how long it would take them to get there and that stuff. You know, maybe they were hoping to hit the train, or maybe it's just a, holy shit, there's a train there with fuel, let's take that out too type things. But you probably had the drone over here monitoring the truck. When the truck was online with the fuel cars on that train, that's when they detonated. Now it was too far away from the train to cause that to blow up. But it was close enough to rupture tanks and set fire to the fuel, destroying the fuel inside. The two civilians that died, unfortunately, they were in a car right next to the truck when it detonated. You can see on the footage, they were behind them. They started passing them, and when they were online with them, that's when the truck detonated. I doubt they were involved, but no one knows for sure. So, how can this be turned into a battle drill? All right, first off, I'm going to throw this out there. Never, ever, ever, ever target civilians for any reason. Never, ever write off civilians as collateral damage. This situation, I will give a thumbs up to the Ukrainians. They did it early in the morning when there was very little traffic on the bridge. Very few civilians moving back and forth. At least that's how it looked in the footage. So they did minimize the civilian casualties. Only 3 civilians died, reportedly. The driver and the 2 people in the car next to it. So what you do as a battle drill on this. So this is using a heavy VBIED against a lawful military target. And I'll probably make that the title. First off, find your target. Find the weakness. Find something that is infrastructure that if it is taken out, it will take the enemy a long time to repair or replace. We had here a choke point, these sets of bridges. It took a long time to build them. They detonated it far out to sea, well away from shore. So it's going to take a while to fix those damaged spans. So find infrastructure that if it is taken out, it will hurt the enemy. Try to find a target that's not going to hurt civilians so much. You want it to hurt enemy forces. This is a major supply route. Lawful target. The United States does it all the damn time around the world. Don't believe me? Go back and look at the pictures out of 2003 from Iraq. Or even older, back in the first Gulf War, the number of bridges we took out then. Find the target. Find out how is it weak. Check the security in the area. Where's the security patrols? Where's the security checkpoints? Where's the guards? What checkpoints will have to be gone through to get close to your target? Once you get all that target information, that's when you decide, hey, this target over here, we're more likely to have success than this target or this target or this target. At that point, you then look at the information on that target. How can you damage it? What do you need to damage it? Is it fuel tanks out in the open that maybe you can take care of with a few rockets? Or is it something that you're going to need a heavy vehicle-borne IED, a truck bomb? Once you determine that, that's when you go through, gather the materials, and make your truck bomb. Make your heavy VBIED. VBIED, VBIED. Do it in an area that is hopefully outside enemy control, an area that they do not have patrols moving through, that they're not going to do a sweep through and find it while you're making it. Then move, once it's assembled, get it onto the truck. Maybe you're going to transport it a little at a time to another location where that VBIED will be assembled. Like what happened here, the explosive was made in Odessa, made its way around, and then was put together by people that were probably paid off inside Russia and set. Second location, away from where it was made. Assemble your VBIED, get it ready. While you're getting everything assembled, that's when you're doing your final planning. You're going through, you're checking to see what's the changes in the security situation. Is the enemy suspecting something? Does it look like they were tipped off? Observation, see how things are. Don't specifically go in there and ask, hey, you think they know there's a truck bomb that's going to be coming in soon? What do you think there, Bubba? No. Take your ass up there, look around, observe the area. Who's ever in charge of the mission, the person that's ultimately responsible, he gives the go-ahead. When you have the time, when you're going to be able to set it off, to destroy that piece of infrastructure and minimize civilian casualties. Remember, the goal is no civilians injured, let alone killed. VBIED goes out. While the VBIED is going out, everyone that was involved in the operation scatters, disappears. That didn't happen in the Crimea bridge blast. It sounds like the idiots were still sitting around counting their money. So they've been getting rounded up one after another by Russian security services. The VBIED is on the way. Now, at this point, is really going to determine, is it going to be a suicide bomb or is it going to be placed and run? And I'll tell you right now, when a truckload of explosive or fuel goes off, you're talking about clearing a grid square. 1,000 meters by 1,000 meters around you. One giant pie for that entire area is going to get heavily damaged. When this bomb went off, it broke windows miles away. And I'm sure the people that were in the vehicles on this bridge over here, behind it and in front of it, had their bells rung pretty damn good. So they're probably looking at TBI, traumatic brain injuries. And also probably ruptured internal organs, also lacerations from the shrapnel, the glass breaking and just peppering them. Once the VBIED is on the target, it is detonated before the enemy can react. Now, a typical thing that you've seen in Iraq is when a VBIED was going in, is it was going through a security checkpoint. It's not at its target yet. If it gets found, then someone set it off at that checkpoint. It's not the main target you were looking for, but still you're causing damage to the enemy and also scaring the hell out of them, because their security forces will go into paranoia mode and things get extremely hard for the civilian population. As we've seen with the Crimea bridge blast, after that happened, the Russians were seriously pissed off and they renewed airstrikes across the country. They renewed cruise missile strikes, and they're still sending in suicide drones low and slow right over the treetops, hitting targets across Ukraine inside the cities that they stopped bombarding months ago. Always remember, you do something like this, the counterinsurgent will respond, and he will probably respond in a way you do not like, that you do not think is fair, you do not think is honorable, and it damn sure will hurt you. In World War II, when anything like this would happen, a bombing or an assassination, the counterinsurgent forces, the Nazi troops, would go through, round up a bunch of people and start shooting them or hanging them. So just realize that you employ something like this, there will be consequences that you did not intend. And you must be willing to pay those consequences if you're going to try doing something this ballsy. Every single person involved in the operation, as I said, needs to disappear. Get as far away from the area as possible as the truck is going in, as that VBIED is going in. Move them to a different city, different county, different state. Move them out of the area, because the security forces will be going through, those Gestapo forces will be going through, interrogating everyone and anyone to get information. Never post anything online about these types of operations. If you're in a resistance force, you're fighting an occupational government, an occupation, an invading force. Don't post anything online. I really wouldn't even write anything down. All the stuff needs to be word of mouth, you know, quietly, you know, in the corner at a bar that's super noisy, or out in the woods somewhere. Or maybe you're meeting under a bridge, making it look like you're down there shooting dope, but actually you're discussing a VBIED. Get some of an idea on how this can be used. This is a legitimate resistance force or guerrilla tactic. And as long as you are not targeting civilians, it damn sure is lawful. But if there's a chance that you're going to injure a whole hell of a lot of civilians, don't do it. Do everything you can to minimize those civilian casualties. Civilians are not collateral damage. It is a travesty when civilians die, because you will be blamed for it. Civilians will not forget you are responsible for the death of their loved ones. For the death of those kids, the death of grandma, the death of grandpa. They will never forget. Infrastructure, military targets, okay. Civilians causing terrorism? Hell no, that is not okay. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and Militia movements, always remember essayons.